Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 20th episode of It Sure Is a Podcast.
Not the children!
Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of It Sure Is a Podcast. We have made it to the big 2-0. And if you're curious on why this is so important, because 20 is a small number, 20 was the number that I gave myself that if I follow through with this, then I would actually continue past 20. And we hit this number. I enjoy doing it. I'm only going to get better stuff. I appreciate everyone who has hung on. So we are at 20, baby, and we got a lot to talk about today. Let's start with this Fortnite crossover stuff. Now, listen, let's just hear me out. I'm not saying Fortnite's the best game ever, because everyone has their own feelings about it. But I was reading an article that was sent to my phone because, you know, the government's always watching everything we do on our phones. And I got an article about you can play as Kratos from God of War on Fortnite. Now, okay, you could do that on your PS4. You could play God of War, which is an excellent game, I might add. So what's so different about that? No, it's like... it's like I can play on my Nintendo Switch as Kratos from God of War on PS4. And I believe Master Chief is coming soon, so I can play as Master Chief on my Nintendo Switch on my PS4. And rumor is circulating that Samus from Nintendo will be in Fortnite. So I just imagine people with Xboxes and PlayStation 4s running around playing as Samus. And the only reason I bring this up is because do you remember as children, me as a 28-year-old something, when we were lads and lasses, that there was never, ever any form of crossover with our IPs based off of the video game consoles we liked? You would never, ever see this. This is only recent, like the last 10 years, that, I mean, Epic has really tried to bridge this gap of being like, hey, we all like games. Other games do it too. You can see a bunch of indie titles that have a lot of indie characters in them, or they have a lot of crossover promotions and stuff. It's just crazy to see that, you know, the three big main console powers in the gaming realm, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, are starting to get along and play nice and kind of have fun. I know Microsoft and Nintendo Switch, those are the two that have been playing nice, right? We got a few Xbox exclusive titles on the Switch, which would be Ori and the Blind Forest, and then Ori and the Will of the Wisps. There were two Metroidvania titles that got ported over to Switch, which is amazing. And we also got Cuphead. But I think it also showed up on PS4 too, maybe. But I'm, getting ahead of myself. Yeah, no, it just is super bizarre to see it, but I'm happy to see it. Because oh no, we got... yeah. It's just a lot of studios are playing nice, and you would have never seen that. Like, even 5 years ago. Because it was always a war. It was always a conflict. It's always that we're doing something better that they aren't doing. And I think we could even break that down to everything in life, whether it's politics, whether it's choosing a product, whether it's everything's competing for your attention and competing for your purchase or your pick of service or even just your vote. If we go down the line of politics, it's always that we're doing something good, they're doing something bad. But right now gamers are like, let's unite. Let's get some iconic people in games that are really popular. Now, some people are probably thinking in their brains, yeah, but it's Fortnite meant for children. Bad for us because reasons. I can understand that. But also looking at it, what if, just throwing it out there, what if the kid steals his mom's credit card and gets V-Bucks, purchases the Kratos skin pack, or the Master Chief skin pack, or maybe if we get our wishes, the Samus skin pack. And they're like, wow, I really like the look of this character. I want to play a game that they're actually in. And then they proceed to branch out from what they usually play, and then you have a new fan of that said series that character's from. Big promotional thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy to just still think about and still comprehend it. Like, I'm struggling to comprehend all of it. So does anyone else have this problem? I want to throw it out there because it's a problem that I have greatly. Is that you can't talk and type anything at the same time. Anyone have this issue? Because for my job, I have to do it a lot. And I will actually not even talk and type at the same time because it is so distracting. There's a little segment I cut out here in the audio because I had to literally stop everything I was doing just to type out 3 words. And it's one of those things where you're like, why are you doing that? What the heck? I know. It's something that a lot of people probably think that is something that should be just a no-brainer. But I don't know, something about it. My brain cannot put 2 and 2 together, and I cannot talk and type at the same time. So I am curious to hear from everybody. I just put the thought out there. How was your recent Christmas, December? Because we're getting close to Christmas now, because we're already on December 6th. So Crimbus is going to be in what? I'm not even going to do the math on how many days. You can do that. You're an adult. I don't do a podcast to do math. But this year, I've been reviewing sales. I've been looking at sales because everything's been financially on my end being hemorrhaged down in my bank account. So I haven't been purchasing anything. But I've been looking around and keeping an eye out. And I've noticed that a lot of games are going really, really, really cheap. And I don't know if you've been able to get yourself anything that would be, I don't know, something for you, something for a friend. I mean, I told you in I'm sorry, not the last episode, the episode before that, I told you guys about how I hemorrhaged so much money, but I got that stuff pretty cheap. And I've continued to play some Crash Team Racing Nitro Field. It's fun, it's challenging, but I'll pick it up, play a few rounds, get a little better. Dark Souls, I have put that down. That is something that I do not know if I'll go back to. Yes, it's challenging, and I know it's designed like that, but I just think it's not for me. Regardless of how we cut it, how we dissect it, I think that's what it is. But also, speaking of games, I have just did a whole episode about the Honest RPG and talk about the things I like about The Witcher, right? So I wanted to relay this information on to you so if you are a computer gamer and you have a decent connection and you would like the original The Witcher Enhanced Edition, if you'd like to purchase it, you definitely can. Well, you can get it for free. You have to download the GOG, Good Old Games, I believe what it is. I could be completely wrong. Don't quote me on that. But just type in GOG into your internet browser, hit enter. It's going to bring up the main page. Download I believe it's the GOG Galaxy app. It's a launcher, like your Steam launcher, like your Epic Game launcher. And you can just download The Witcher 1 for free. Now, I've been playing a little bit of it. Also, been staying very up late at night. Jeez. Words are tough. But this is nothing new, right? This is all just what you expect from this podcast. I've been staying up very late. Last night, I got home at 10:30, 11 from a friend's place, which we're being safe. Don't you worry. And then I played until 3 in the morning, and now I am up. What time did I get up? I got up at 8 a.m. because there's stuff to do. But yeah, still being sucked into The Witcher. But I was playing The Witcher 1 for about 3 hours yesterday. And whoo! Let me tell you, it is definitely... you play the last game in the series. If you play the last game, you expect all these quality of life improvements. Now, all the same elements that you found in The Witcher 3 are still in The Witcher 1, but it's so convoluted and it's so just weird. So I put it on the easiest difficulty. I put everything as the simplest difficulty because the combat is bizarre. So combat, you lock onto a person and go up to him. If you ever played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and if you haven't played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, I recommend you do. You can literally get it on iPad for like $5 and you'll be able to play the game. So you click on a target, an enemy, you walk up to them and there's a little red circle that shows their health and then you just fight them one-on-one. But sometimes you have to fight enemies around you, so if you have to switch targets. So combat, he does it himself, and you have to click only when your little sword icon turns red, which means you do another combo. Honestly, it's just a bunch of dudes flailing their swords at each other. You just walk up, and he's just waving his sword over his head. It's going to be a ride. But I'm interested in the story elements, because characters that I really grew to like in Witcher 3 have already showed up in the first act of The Witcher 1. Triss Marigold, Lambent, and then, forget the other guy's name. But, Lambert, I'm sorry, I think it's a Lambert. Yeah, but they're already showing up in the beginning, so I'm like, wow, these are characters I actually really like, so I want to get, because the writing's still good, the story narrative's still good, I mean, it is a product of its time, but at the same time, it's not repulsive. It ain't terrible. So, yeah, throwing it out there. GOG.com. Download the launcher app. I think it's a Galaxy app. GOG Galaxy. It's right on the front page. And then get yourself a free copy of The Witcher Enhanced Edition. Yeah, you got a little bit of that. So a lot of podcasts I've been listening to actually kind of have this little break in between where I guess it's meant to refocus the conversation, because I actually kind of noticed it's learning experience at the end. I kind of started to derail and just kind of going in no man's land. So yeah, we're getting back on track here. So I don't know if you've ever heard the game of F, Marry, Kill. Obviously the F wouldn't be the word F, it'd be the 4-letter F word, the bad word. The word that can be used in every form of the English language, whether adjective, verb, noun, what have you. So the game is F, Marry, Kill. So you pick 3 characters, and from that you pick one to marry, pick one to kill, and pick one to F. So have a night of pleasure if you will. So we're going to play a version of that, and I'm going to be going through the game series that I've been playing recently and game series that I enjoy. Now, this is all just based off of face value, just how I just glance at these characters and how it makes my body feel. Okay. So I'm throwing this out there that this is not me being weird, but, we're going to play this game. So let me review here. What do we got here? Okay. Let's start with a collection of characters from different mascot series. So, let's get a little weird. Everyone's going to look at this and be like, this guy's a furry. There's a reason and there's a purpose that whenever designing a character in that form, they give them human qualities to make them appealing so that it makes you want to be involved with the game. So, what we got here is, all right, Dr. Neocortex, Crash Bandicoot, and Tawna. Those are the three we got going right now. So F, marry, kill. So I would kill Crash Bandicoot. I would F Neocortex and Tawna. Especially the Tawna from Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Because let me get this thrown out there and let's have this discussion. You see that character design. If you have not seen that character design, look up Crash Bandicoot 4 Tawna, Tawna. Okay? Look up the design and tell me they were not aiming it at a certain audience, right? And you're thinking, what audience were they aiming at? They were aiming it at the butt guys. Because you have the boob guys and you have the butt guys. The boob guys are usually gentlemen who enjoy breasts in their potential mate to be bigger. Butt guys prefer the butts of their potential mate to be bigger. So the Tawna in the new Crash game, you look at that, just go look at it and then come back to me and then listen to the rest of this because it's like they definitely knew what they were doing. There is no hiding that. There is no denying that, not in the slightest. And I will argue on this and I will die on this hill that yes, they were definitely, they definitely had an idea with that. So whenever I do the F, marry, kill, I assume that when I marry the person, we would have consistent love and intercourse over the course of our marriage. But the F would be like one night of wild, mind-blowing sex. So, yeah, those are my picks. Crash Bandicoot as a character, he's goofy, he's just wild, he's dumb. I love that about his character, don't get me wrong, but in the three choices, yeah, get him out of there. Why? Neocortex is a scientist, and I bet you that man would have technology to enhance the experience. And also, he is hilarious to me. I love his design. I love his character. I love it. I don't know why. It's just something about that. And then I just imagine it would just be wild, crazy, weird intercourse land. And then finally, we would end off with Tawna, which I'm picking the Tawna from Crash 4, and that's the one I would marry. And I'm a guy who enjoys butt and boob, so it's not a specific thing, but it is, it just depends on the person. So the main revelation we had today is Brandon here is a boob and a butt guy because I am inclusive. All right, move on to the next category. Something that has a lot of characters. Overwatch. All those characters there. All prime for the picking. And this is a toughie because they've added characters. So what I have picked out in my gamer brain here out of all those characters, you really have to pick 3. So I have picked Brigitte. I have picked Symmetra. And I have picked Zarya. Wait. Crap. Those are all characters that I would F. I need to take out, alright, we're going to taking out Symmetra. And we are out of that whole list, okay? And then we are going to put in Widowmaker. Widowmaker, I would kill. She's the one character I would kill, and probably a lot of people think I'm insane because that is... Now, let's let you in on a little secret. Ever since Overwatch has released, there has been very adult content made about it. And people are probably wondering, if you don't know adult content, what do you mean? Porn. I'm talking about porn. Now, if you're really into Overwatch and you like follow different people who do stuff on it, it's a thing that comes up. No, I'm not sitting here and pulling up videos of Overwatch porn. You always get to a point in age where like that desire to be like, sex, everything's hot. It very much diminishes. And me being an older gentleman, it's pretty much diminished. But also my medication hasn't helped that. But we're moving on. Widowmaker is the character archetype. She's the sniper. And I hate those characters in games. Hate them. I played a lot of Team Fortress 2 during my undergrad. And I still played a little bit. And snipers still get under my skin. So got to kill that Widowmaker. So I would marry Brigitte because she is my favorite healer. Even though she keeps getting nerfed into the ground. She has a fun personality. I feel like, you know, I could enjoy a life with her. And then my choice of F would be Zarya. Now, Zarya is a character who's a bodybuilder, but also this kind of carries this giant beam cannon around and is this just very tough warrior. Man, could you just imagine how crazy I would be? Like, I'd get a dislocated shoulder and a broken collarbone, and I'd be so happy with that. I don't know. All right, since we're talking about this, let's get into my preference. I like women who have a little curvature to their little curvy, or they're absolutely obnoxiously muscular and can break me in half. It's one or the other, no in between. All right, so there was my list of the Overwatch characters for F, Marry, Kill. Let's see, what other Legend of Zelda. Let's go there. So we got Princess Zelda, we got Ganon, or we got Link. Let's just go with the three, notable characters in this series, because there's so many others, but even though Legend of Zelda is popular, I still know a lot of people who don't know a lot about the Zelda universe, right? Overwatch has been, through merchandise and everything, everyone knows what Overwatch is. So, all right, Link. I'd kill Link, because Link is only in the new game, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Link was actually called Link. He was always called Link, but he could always change his name. In this game, his name is Link. And up until then, he has more just been a vehicle for the player to be able to enter the world of Hyrule. And I'm just kind of, I don't feel one way about him. Like, yeah, Link's a very cool character, but is he really a character, or is he just a vessel? I mean, in the new game, it made him a character, but this one, yeah. So he's getting killed. Zelda, we're going to F, and then I'll marry Ganon. Because Ganon is such a cool bad guy. And especially in the new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Ganon has always been the bad guy. Whether you believe that the Legend of Zelda has a consistent timeline that has the hero of time being reincarnated, or is the Legend of Zelda just a legend being told the same way, but a little different every time. Us inherently, as human beings, we are storytellers. We like to tell stories. That's part of this podcast. I'm telling you a story about my personal life, my personal thoughts. It's a story. People do this in their everyday lives. How do we make friends? Well, we share interests. How do we share interests? We tell each other stories based off of what we've experienced with this shared interest. And that was a point that I was going to get to at some point in this video, and we're actually going to jump back to that. But Legend of Zelda, yes, I believe that you could put it into a timeline if you would like, because some of the stuff does fit up, but I kind of feel like it is just a collection of legends, a collection of tales that all take place in the same universe, but it's just being told a little differently. Because there's always Link, you always have to save Princess Zelda, and you always have to defeat Ganon or Ganondorf. Ganondorf is the evil in the game. He is this presence, this chaotic evil that is always brought into the world of Hyrule. And especially in Breath of the Wild, that's not the Ganon I'd pick to marry, but he literally given up on his attempt to become like physical embodiment, like human, and try to get all the Triforce to rule the world. He is just literally pure hateful energy. So with that being said, I would choose to marry either Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker Ganon. I like the designs. I like their motives. They have a little backstory. I don't know. That's what I pick. And Zelda's fine in some of the Legend of Zelda games, but yeah. Other ones, she's just there as just a vehicle. Especially the newer ones, like she has more of a character, which I really like. Alright, so let's go on to my favorite game series, Borderlands. Borderlands is a game series I grew up with. 1 through 2, and then pre-sequel are absolute favorites of mine. I played them so much through undergrad and even when I was in my graduate schooling. Even have Handsome Jack tattooed on me. So, alright, let's pick some characters. Alright, I got it here. Because I have a bunch of Borderlands statues. It's ridiculous. So, Handsome Jack, Mad Moxie, and then let's go with Claptrap. Let's be inclusive. I would kill Claptrap, kill him. I would F Handsome Jack, and then I would marry Mad Moxie. No, I lied. Switch that around. I would kill Claptrap, F Mad Moxie, and then Handsome Jack I would actually marry. Claptrap, yeah, he's kind of annoying. That's his character archetype. That's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be not liked, and they do a pretty good job. He's annoying sometimes. Mad Moxie I would F, and only because I switched it around, because when I envision the ideal marriage, it's someone I want to have to be my best friend and someone I want to be with for the rest of my life. Mad Moxie is a character who, she's like very wholesome. She's very motherly to the characters. She takes care. She's a wonderful lady, but she's a big slut. So it's one of those things that I knew she would probably cheat on me. So that's why I did that. Handsome Jack, even though he's a jerk, even though he's an evil person. Well, to some people, honestly, he's my favorite bad guy because he was so relatable and he was so likable that you're like, you wanted him to win. Him, yeah, even though he's a jerk, he's loyal. And I ain't got time for those unloyal hoes, as we put it. Let me see what else we got here. All right, let's go with the Halo series. So we got Sergeant Johnson, we got Master Chief, or we got Cortana. Kill Sergeant Johnson, F Master Chief, and then marry Cortana. That one's a simple one for me. And it just kind of where all those characters stand with me. like Master Chief. I never got into the Halo games until a lot later in life. A lot of people loved it. And 1 through 3, they're good. They're good times. And I'm not discounting that. But for me, like to play it now, it's kind of like, it's fun, but I don't have that nostalgia. So if out of those 3, those were the one I'd pick. Because Sergeant Johnson's just a very cliche, I'm a soldier, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to yell at you. Which is a fine archetype, but it just, I don't want to hear that. Especially the voice actor for Cortana sounds beautiful. What else? Oh, I almost forgot this one. We almost didn't touch on it. The Witcher series. So we'll do Geralt, Triss, and Yennefer. And this one is actually tough. The gears are turning in my brain. Ah, jeez. I don't. Can I marry all of them? Like, if I had to, it would kill Triss, F. Geralt, marry Yennefer. That's the way it would be. Yeah. If I had to choose. But, as I told you earlier, playing a lot of Witcher, and I actually have 2 files going on where I'm playing through the game again, and I'm like, seeing the Triss side of things, because there's 2 main romance points where you can, say I've always been with Triss or always been with Yennefer. And Yennefer was my option. I believe Yennefer is the true option. But I want to see how it goes with Triss. So yeah, that would be my thing. Kill Triss, marry Yennefer, F. Geralt of Rivia. Because also, I mean, that's Geralt of Rivia. He's like the manliest man I've ever thought of. Like, that's the ideal manly man. Let's just get one more. And I'm trying to sort of pick series that are somewhat identifiable, but don't go into, I don't know, weird territory. Even though some of this, you're looking at this like, this is all weird. Yeah, you're right. All right, last game we're doing is the classic, the absolute pinnacle of games. Whenever you think of games, you think of this game. And it is the Mario Brothers. So through all of the characters introduced in the Mario series, we got ourselves a bunch of characters. So I'm going to pick 3 for the list, which would be Birdo, Rosalina, and Toad. And this is gonna, here we go. Let's get a little weird. So what we got here is Birdo. I would F, because that giant suction nose thing, you know what I'd do with that. Toad I would kill. He's just annoying. And then Rosalina I would marry. Rosalina is my favorite Mario character in that universe. And I don't know why, but she is. And I think it's because in Mario Galaxy, she actually had a story. She wasn't just go save the princess. She had a story where her mother died. You can piece all this together. You can watch Game Theory on it. Go do that. Her mother died, and she befriended a little star person, a little Luma, they call it. And she was sad because, her mom died, and her Luma friend wanted to make her feel better. So they go to the stars, and she befriends all these little Lumas, little star people, and then builds this giant fortress, this flying ship fortress, and then just zooms around kind of the galaxy, going to different galaxies, different realities. And she kind of landed here when Bowser stole her giant grand star that powers the ship, which gave him powers. But there was a story, and she was actually a character. And then, at the end, she, resets the whole universe. It's crazy deep for a Mario game, but I love it. Rosalina, yes. So, that concludes the F, marry, kill part of the podcast. I don't know. We're going to try these little interlude things. We're going to see how they work, see how everyone reacts to them. So a few housekeeping things since we made it to episode 20. Not major things are going to change, but we will have an Instagram up, hopefully, which was my main Instagram, but only thing I ever posted on there was stuff for It Sure Is a Podcast. So that will be changing to It Sure Is a Podcast Instagram. I'll post some fun stuff, just gaming things. And we also have the Twitter for It Sure Is a Podcast. Check those out. Maybe I should link them. Probably what I should do, make it easier for you guys. That's where I'll put some updates. That's where I'll put some links. I need to get better at that. But here's the thing. We made it to 20. 20 is a big number. 20 is a thing that, it's the stepping off point for something bigger and better. Also, I recently had my lovely, lovely dear friend who I have been friends with since undergrad. And she did a piece of artwork for me, which will be on the Twitter, which will be on the Instagram, and which will be the background for the video on YouTube. Which this episode, at the same time it launches on all of the various podcast things we got, it is going to be up on YouTube. And that's where we're going to start that. Every time there's an episode uploaded, it will be put on the YouTube channel too, and we're going to push forward with that. Because, like I said earlier, there was a time where I wasn't sure if I was going to follow through with this, but here we are. The picture's wonderful. It is in a style of Steven Universe, which I love the art style for, but I hate the show. It's kind of, I don't know, contradictory, but yeah, it's something I really enjoy. The art style's so good, but the show just does not vibe with me well. And there's a lot of concepts and a lot of topics they touch on, which I approve of because it's super progressive, but at the same time, it's just kind of like a lot of the filler episodes kill it for me. So that was the housekeeping things. I'm looking at my list here. Yeah, all the housekeeping things have been covered. So I really wanted to close with storytelling. I talked about a little bit in our F, Marry, Kill segment. And storytelling is such a crucial and such a monumental piece of being human. We tell stories to relay a message. We tell stories to express our creativity. And I even said earlier, we tell stories to make friends, right? How do you make a friend? Well, you talk to someone, you do the basic introductory, and then you always ask, what do you like to do? Where do you work? What's your job? Or how did you become friends with so-and-so? Because a lot of times we're introduced to people as, a friend of a friend, or maybe we work with someone and we get to know them. Well, we start to share stories based on our lives, what we do. We share stories based on things we like. Like, I literally made my bestest friend in the whole wide world. We met at college, undergrad, and literally how we became friends. We were sitting in our lecture hall class, and we got there a little early. We always sat next to each other just because they were the available seats that were closer to the back. And this guy makes a comment about him complaining. He was complaining to the teacher about something. The teacher was giving him some attitude, so he, gave a little bit back. And then he told me, it's like, yeah, so I told him, put that in your rucksack and sell it. And I look at this guy and I'm like, are you really dropping out the Harvest Moon references here? And at that moment, we both knew, like, yes, this is that type of humor. This is type. So then we started sharing stories about our experiences with Harvest Moon, the game by Natsume. Or is it Natsume? Natsume. But man, that game's gone right into the dumpster. Getting off track. Sorry. But we started sharing stories with each other. And from that, we really were able to make a connection. So it was off the stories that we made these connections. We were talking about things that interest us. They were stories. So I wanted to take time to close out this episode with, what is the story you want to tell? Is the story you want to tell going to be in the form of a video game? Is it going to be in the form of a book that you're trying to write? And can I throw this out there for aspiring writers and me working on the Briar stuff? At first I was like, I can't write it. I can't write anything. Right? I can't write. I'm garbage at it. And yeah, you would be right. I am pretty trash at it. But if you have a story you really want to tell, be sure to pursue that, because I have recently been directed and stumbled upon this kind of indie writing scene. So you have indie games. Heck, you even have indie board games. TheGameCrafter.com is a website where you can use that site to make your own board games with professional quality. And there's like even indie board games. Some of my favorite board games that we have in the rotation of what we play with my friends are independent board games. So we are as nerdy as it gets. And I've just recently stumbled upon this indie writing scene. You can find this stuff on like the Amazon PDF bookstore, however you want to put that. And the writing isn't perfect. The writing's not amazing, but there's a lot of good ideas and good stories to tell. So what is your story? My story right now is, well, I want to tell a story through a few modalities. I want to tell a story through my Briar series, which I just recorded the second episode. So that will go up at some point, maybe today, depending how much I have to do in my life. Is it in the form of a video game? I am currently working on a game with my friend, and actually, which was so good because sometimes he struggles, just like me, to find that motivation, right? And if you're listening to this, bud, you're like, this ain't me throwing you under the bus. I understand that struggle with motivation. It's tough, and I can only do it a few days at a time. But he found some stuff that is super beneficial. And I'm like, yes, the wheels are starting to turn. It's amazing. And this guy, I won't throw his name out there, but absolute saint for wanting to join with me on this little adventure on throwing this idea together. And I've been writing the story for that too. Now, I'll be honest with you, since I've been playing Witcher, I've been taking inspirations from story structure. But the story structure has really turned into, what is your purpose and what is your talent or your gift? And it's getting a little heavy-handed for a monster catching game, but like at the same time, I think it's a story I want to tell, because I think it's something that I struggled with in the past. And a lot of times, that's where our best stories come from. We struggled from things in our past, and when we got through them, it was a learning experience, but it was also a story to tell. And also with a story to tell, there is a point to be made. Now, a lot of times people write books just because they want to write books. They want to write a story. And that's okay. That is wonderful. And then there's some times where you want to make a point with your story. I know the funniest thing about stories is what was it called? The book Fahrenheit 451, I believe. It was a book about a future where all books were banned and burned. And a lot of people have taken a lot of philosophical, a lot of political ideas from that story. And the author, I believe this is the right book. I hope it is. Because you've heard authors say, like, I just wrote the book because I wanted to. I wanted to imagine a world where, how would the world be if all the books were burned? Or if books were like contraband. There's some countries that air where that's contraband, unless it's like the books that they want you to have. If you have a different book, well, you're going to get in trouble, especially like in China. Like, it's not really talked about a lot, but like Christians are like, Bibles are pretty much outlawed. So if you choose to practice that faith, you're putting yourself at risk, and that's a book that's outlawed. So take that concept but put it with every book ever. And the person who wrote it was just like, I just want to write that story. And a lot of people drew a lot of stuff from that. And the thing that when people draw a lot of thought from that, that means that you're engaging with it and you're thinking. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. And you want your stories to make people think. You want your stories to make people kind of reevaluate their perspective. But also, sometimes you just want someone's story to entertain. And that's beautiful too. So what is your story? What is your story you want to tell? My sister is, well, she has a lot going on, but she currently has a blog where she tells stories about her life and, dealing with a lot, struggling through a lot. And she uses it as a way to tell her story, to interact with other people, to be a sort of vessel for, I don't know, just being a vessel for, I need someone to talk to. I need someone who has been through the same things that I've been through, but I don't want a therapist. I don't want to go through all that nonsense. And this is kind of the way she sets it up. It's just like, hey, here's my story. If you relate to it, cool. But also she's about to have another kid. Another kid's about to enter into our lives. Oh my goodness. But also she has finished writing a book. She's just working on having an editor. But during all this time, she's doing a bunch of work and she's about to have a kid. And when I bring that up, I just felt this wave of sorrow and grief wash over me. I have a niece, yes. And I love her to death. But adding in another kid to that, I just look at that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even handle that thought right now. And I can't even imagine her and her husband, them handling that right now. That's going to be something else. That's going to be absolutely something else. And now I'm thinking about that. I've heard from some people who have children where they're like, it's such a wonderful experience to have a child with the person I love, but I also always wanted to have a kid. But they always complain about, like, obviously the pregnancy is just horrible. And whoever I end up with, here's my thing. I'm not too interested in having a kid, but if the person I'm with decides I want to have a kid, I mean, honestly, it's going to be your choice because all I have to do is have some fun. All I have to do is have some fun for like 10 seconds. I nut in ya, and then we're done, right? And then you have 9 months of carrying a child. Oh my gosh. And I just like put it into that perspective. Oh, it's kind of gross. But from that, there is a reason I'm talking about that. From that, people tell me stories about their experiences, which influences my thoughts on having a kid. They always say it's like after you have the kid and after you kind of get settled in life, see what their personality is going to be. That's when it gets fun to be a parent. That's when you get to teach lessons to them. Lessons. I kind of slurred my words. So how do you teach a lesson? Well, you tell a story. You tell a story about something you did. Tell a story about something you saw in a way that a child will understand. The stories are all over in our lives and in our everyday. And me even talking about this is me telling you a story about just what I've observed. But back to my sister's book. It's one of those books where it's like a self-help book, but it's great. It's cool. I'm happy for her. And I did talk about with them about, remember that forever ago, I did all the illustrations for that children's book for them and they were going to write it. I asked them whatever happened to that. And my sister's like, listen, I ain't even thinking about that until I have this kid. Oh, man. Crazy stuff. I also kind of throw this out there. This is unrelated, but it kind of relates to the kid thing. Whenever, whether it is a couple that you know for a while they're trying to have a kid, or a married couple who are trying to have a kid. And the only reason I just separate that is because in my brain, dude, I don't care if you have sex in a relationship, outside of the, and no relationship, but just casual. But I feel like if you're gonna have a kid, you definitely should, I guess, be married to some extent, or really be loyal to each other. The only reason I say that is for the sake of the kid, because there's a lot of situations where two people will have a kid, and then the parents get in a fight and the one parent just leaves. And then the kid is left in this broken home, right? At least if you're married, I know this is a weird take on it, but if you're married, we have systems set up. They might not be the best systems, but we have systems set up to support that child and to support that parent given the situation. Does that make sense? That's where I'm coming from. I'm thinking for the kid's sake. But moving on. So whenever someone says, hey, we're trying to have a kid, we're working on having a kid. If you really think about it, you're just telling a group of your friends that your husband is just nutting in you and there's no consequences. You're like, there's two ways this conversation goes, right? Their friend comes up to you and they're just like, so we're trying really hard to have a kid. That's wonderful. Or what it's really boiling down to is, whenever my husband and I have sex, he is ejaculating inside my vagina. But that's it. I really thought about that because my friends were talking about that, and these are really good friends of mine. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is what's happening. And I talked to them about it. And when I talked to them about it, my one friend, he was like, I feel gross after you told me that. And then his wife, my other friend, she was like going, a dry heaving, like when she thought about it. When you're in the moment, like, you don't really think about that stuff just because your hormones are heightened and your brain's going all wound up, like, all right, it's time for sexy times. But when you sit down and with a clear mind talk about it, you're like, and like my friend, he was like, I feel bad. But we're also comfortable and we can talk about this stuff. And ending on a note, I'm cracking up by this. So ending on the note of nutting in someone, this episode is the longer episode. This is the episode where I took some time. We're doing some different things. And we're going to wrap it up on that. We're going to finish up on that. I appreciate you guys. Episode 20 and beyond. We're going to go places. Things are going to get done. I hope everyone's staying safe. Be safe out there. I love you guys.